What is going on, college basketball fans? And it is my favorite time of the year. Next week on Monday, college basketball begins, and today we are coming out with our first college basketball preseason video of this new season, and we're going to be going over the preseason AP Top 25, go over what I think about each one of these teams, which teams that I think got snubbed, which teams I think should be higher, lower, if they're just right, all good things like that. Make sure you guys subscribe for more college basketball content because a ton of it is coming. A couple more videos coming this week. I'm very hyped for it, including our preseason. Let me know if you guys want to see this or if it's too early. If you guys want me to fill out Joe Lenardi's bracketology, his preseason bracketology, just to kind of get an idea, like fill out our first bracket of this new season. Let me know down below. Is it too early, or do you guys want to see that at the end of the week? Let me know down below. Let's get into it. All right, so here we have it, the preseason AP poll for college basketball this season. And as you can see, there are 5 different teams that did receive first place votes in this AP Top 25, but the majority of them going to the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, this doesn't necessarily surprise me, and I'm okay with this because Kansas is definitely should be like a top 3, top 5 team in the country heading into the season. They are a very stacked team, a very good team, and in my opinion, Bill Self right now is the best head coach in college basketball. Like the best active head coach right now is Bill Self. Close behind him is Tom Izzo, in my opinion, but to me, number 1 is Bill Self right now, and he's got himself a very good team, returning DeJohn Harris Jr., returning Kevin McCullar, and also bringing in guys like Hunter Dickinson, who is one of the best centers in college basketball the last couple of years at Michigan. He is going to be an absolute stud for this team. Also returning guys like KJ Adams. They brought in some other guys like Nick Timberlake, the transfer from Townsend, who's going to be a awesome stud, who looks like he's going to be the 6th man actually, because I think the freshman Elmarco Jackson, 5-star recruit, is going to be the starting shooting guard here on this team. But either way, they have an absolute stacked team, and they should definitely be the favorites to win the Big 12, which is the best conference in college basketball. So I am fine with Kansas being number 1. They are undisputedly a top 5, top 3 team heading into the season. At number 2, they do have the Duke Blue Devils. I'm fine with this. Like, Duke really started to pick it up towards the end of last season, and although they did lose to Tennessee there in the second round, they were really picking it up, and they were one of the hottest teams heading into March Madness last year, and they only got better this past season. They returned their 2 best players in Kyle Filipowski and also Tyrese Proctor, and they're also returning Jeremy Roach, which was probably their 3rd best player there. So their top 3 players are returning to this Duke team. They got some really good freshmen coming in here as well. They're also returning guys like Mark Mitchell. They got 5-star recruits in Sean Stewart, Caleb Foster, TJ Power. And to me, I really like those teams. Teams that have some veteran leadership, some really good veteran seniors or older players, and also some 5-star talent coming in. Like that mix of players can usually get you pretty far, and that's a big reason why I like Duke. Again, just like Kansas, undisputedly a top 5 team heading into the season. In my personal opinion, I'm fine with them being there at number 2. Now, number 3, Purdue. They're the only team receiving first place votes where I'm like, I don't think that they should be number 1, which they're not. They're number 3, but I really don't think they should be number 3 either. I would probably have them in my top 10, but outside of my top 5. Purdue is a team that looked awful in the first round of March Madness. I mean, they put on probably the all-time just absolute crap shows in the first round of March Madness. They could not make a single shot. And I know they are returning almost everybody from that team, including Zach Edey, who was the AP Player of the Year last year. They're returning Caleb First, Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, Mason Gillis, but none of those guys could shoot when it came to March Madness. Now, I do think that they could improve upon that. We've seen the last team and the only other team to lose to a 16 seed in the first round of March Madness in Virginia. They rebounded off of that when they returned a lot of players the next following year, and they won the national championship. Now, could Purdue do that? I just don't see it happening. I think it is possible. I think they're a well-coached team. I think that they could get it together. and be a top team there in the Big Ten, I just think that number 3 is a little bit too high. I know they had an excellent season last year, even though they did end up losing in the first round. In the regular season, it was excellent. So I see where they're coming from, but I just personally would have Purdue a little bit lower. Also, let me know down below if you guys want to see my preseason power rankings. You guys know we do the Power 35. We'll probably have one of those coming out very, very soon. Michigan State here at number 4. I love this Michigan State team. They have one of the best backcourts in college basketball in AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker. And they also have returning Malik Hall, Sissoko down at center, and they're bringing in a 5-star power forward in Xavier Booker, who I think is going to be one of the best freshmen coming into this season. I'm very excited to see him play. Him and Elmarco Jackson, 2 guys that we talked about so far that I think are just going to be absolute stud freshmen right out the bat. And especially that Elmarco Jackson looks to be starting, at least he did in the exhibition game against Illinois. He's starting over Nick Timberlake. That's a good sign. I think Kansas fans should be very excited for what they're going to get from Elmarco Jackson, a very athletic guard who is going to bring a lot to that team, especially when they already have DeJon Harris Jr., who is probably the best passer in college basketball. I mean, now that Marquise Noel is out, he's got to be up there. I mean, he might be the best passer in college basketball. I mean, another guy who we're about to talk about right now at number 5, Tyler Kolek, definitely could make an argument for him as well. Marquette over UConn is pretty interesting. It's weird that UConn got 2 first place votes, but yet they're behind Michigan State, who only got 1, and Marquette, who got 0 first place votes. Kind of weird how that ended up. That means some people must have had UConn lower than 6 for it to kind of balance that out. But UConn, they're losing a lot. Returning national champions or defending national champions from last season. But they're losing a little bit. But they are returning. They are returning Andre Jackson Jr. They're also returning Tristan Newton. Donovan Clingan is going to step in and be the new starting center, who's going to be an absolute beast. They're also returning guys like Donovan Clingan. So they have a lot of guys that are returning. They're just losing a couple of guys. And they also got Stephon Castle coming in, who's a 5-star recruit. They brought in guys like Cam Spencer through the transfer portal. They're going to be just fine. I definitely think that they should be a top 10 team. I would be fine if they were a little bit lower. I would be fine if they were a little bit higher. Here's the thing about Marquette being over them, though. Yes, Marquette did lose way earlier than UConn did in March Madness, but we're talking about more than March Madness here. Marquette beat UConn, I think, all 3 times in the regular season. I mean, and once in the postseason in the Big Ten or the Big East Championship. So I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, UConn might have got 1 out of 3 on them, but I'm pretty sure Marquette beat them 3 times last year. So, and Marquette is returning more than UConn is this season. So they're bringing back Tyler Kolek. They're bringing back Cam Jones. They're bringing back Iggy. They're bringing back Stevie Mitchell. Like, they have a lot of studs on this Marquette team. I'm definitely fine with them being over UConn. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they went 3-0 against UConn. I know they beat them in the Big East Championship game for a fact. UConn might have got them at home, and Marquette might have beat them 2 out of 3, but I think they went 3-0 against UConn last year. Number 7, we do have Houston. They're a team that they are losing Marcus Sasser, and they are losing Tremont Mark through the transfer portal, but they still have some studs on this team, man. Houston is a very solid team, and they're a team that I could see being lower. But the thing about this team and Kelvin Sampson, they've never had to have an absolute star player on their team to be good under Coach Sampson. I mean, what they need is 3-and-D guys and lengthy guys who are going to scrap and play defense, get in the fast break, and who can also hit threes. And that's why I like about this Houston team. They love their 3-and-D guys. They love that defense, and they definitely got him here this season. Jamal Shedd is returning to be the starting point guard. They go and get one of the best 3-and-D guards in college basketball through the transfer portal, and LJ Cryer, transfer from Baylor, who's going to be an absolute stud here. They got Juwan Roberts returning, who is a defensive stud. They got Terrence Arkanox, who is going to be a beast. I know I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, but That's just how I say it. You guys know I pronounce names wrong all the time. But he is a younger guy who I think is really going to step up, be a starter this year, and he could definitely take off here for Coach Sampson this season. Number 8, we do have the Creighton Blue Jays, and they're a team that I actually was very, very high on last season. They were in my preseason, I think, top 5 last year. And they started off pretty hot, and then they kind of cooled down there for a while, and they were very up and down. And that's the thing about Creighton. I don't know if I can quite trust them. The thing about them, the problem with them last year was their depth. Are they going to have that same issue this year? I think their depth might be slightly better, but I don't think it looks great. They lost Ryan Nimhard and also Arthur Kaluma to the transfer portal, but they are returning 3 of their big 5 starters in Ryan Cockbrenner, who you guys said that I looked like all last year, but I grew my hair out, so we don't have the same buzz cut now. You guys probably going to tell me I look like freaking Matt Mayer or someone now. I'm not that shaggy. I'm not that hairy. Calm down. But they are returning Ryan Cockbrenner, Baylor Shireman, and also Trey Alexander, which are 3 amazing players in college basketball, and I get that. And they are also bringing in through transfer portal Stephen Ashworth, who was a beast of a point guard there over at Utah State. So I definitely could see the hype for top 10 again. I had them in my top 5 last year. They kind of disappointed me, even though they did end up making the Elite 8, which is kind of where I expected they could get potentially to the Elite 8 or to the Final 4. I still feel like I can't trust them as a preseason top 10 team right now. I feel like they're more of a top 15 team, so I would have Creighton actually a little bit lower just because I don't know how Stephen Ashworth is going to translate to Big East basketball. I think he's going to translate pretty well. Also, they have a little bit of hole there at the power forward position now, and where is that depth going to be better? I think maybe slightly, but I'm not sure about their depth. So I actually think even though they are bringing back 3 of their amazing 5 starters from last year, I would have Creighton just slightly lower. Definitely a top 25 team. Definitely a top 15 team. I'd probably have them somewhere between 10 and 15, though. At number 9, we do have Tennessee. Now, Tennessee, every year, man, it seems like they're returning Zakai Ziegler and also Vescovi. Now, one of the best backcourts in college basketball every single year. I know Ziegler got hurt last year for a little bit, but I do think that this team has a ton of potential for this season. Yeah, they are losing a couple of guys, but they're also bringing back a guy, the dude who got 3 names, Josiah James Joseph Jordan, who is a really solid player. I think he could actually take a step up this year. But he's a beast on the glass, beast defensively, and I do think that Tennessee is going to be pretty good this year. I just don't think that they should be the top team ranked in the SEC. And we're going to talk about one here coming up that I think should be a top 10 team 100% should be the top ranked team in the SEC. That's coming up here. Florida Atlantic coming up next. I mean, they're returning almost all their starters from last year. I think most of their core of their team, they're returning John L. Davis, Elijah Martin, Big Vladdy Golden. They're at center. Nick Boyd, Brian Greenlee. I mean, they're bringing back a ton of talent from a team that just made the Final Four last year and had a tremendous regular season. So, yeah, Florida Atlantic in the top 10, 100%. I wouldn't even be mad if they were above. I would probably have them above Tennessee and Creighton at least. They're at 8. Gonzaga coming in here at number 11. They're a team that definitely made some moves this offseason. I mean, they're bringing back a couple of starters there in Nolan Hickman and also Antoine Watson. Ben Gray, big backup center, is returning. He's going to stay the backup because they brought in a transfer in Graham Ike, the transfer from Wyoming, who is a stud. I was very surprised that he went over to Gonzaga. Another player I was kind of surprised who went over to Gonzaga was Ryan Nimhard. Ryan Nimhard, transfer from Creighton, is going to be the new point guard for the Gonzaga team. I kind of feel like Ryan Nimhard is what this Gonzaga team needs, is a true point guard like player. I feel like they haven't really had one of those since Jalen Suggs, like that good of a point guard. Now, he's a different type of player than Suggs, obviously. He's not nearly as athletic, but he's a very good passer. a player who can score and get his when he needs to. I just worry about the guard depth on this Gonzaga team. They have really good forwards, really good bigs, but the guard depth is something that I worry about. After Nolan Hickman and after Ryan Nembhard, I'm not sure which guards are really going to step up for the Saga team, but maybe somebody will surprise me. Next up, we got at 12, we got Arizona. Arizona is a team, they did lose a couple of players. They lost Kirk Kriisa to the transfer portal. Some Arizona fans will say that's an addition by subtraction, which they might be happy about. And they brought in a few other guys to kind of replace that. Two really good guards, Jaden Bradley and Caleb Love. They also brought in another transfer in Kashad Johnson, a transfer from San Diego State who's just played in the national championship last season. So I think three tremendous transfer portal gets there for Coach Tommy Lloyd. Arizona is not looking bad. They are also bringing back Omar Ballo, or as Bill Walton likes to call him, Shrek. He's coming back. He's going to be a beast once again this season. I mean, he's so good. Arizona, they should be one of, if not the top team in the Pac-12 once again this season. At number 13, we do have Miami, and now Miami is a team that I would think would be higher. I mean, they've been so good in March Madness the last few years, and yeah, they're losing Isaiah Wong, they're losing Jordan Miller, but they're bringing back Nigel Pack, and they're bringing back Norchad Omier, which I could argue Norchad Omier was the best player for Miami through the March Madness run last season. I mean, it was all of them together: Jordan Miller, Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, Norchad Omier. They were all great. You're bringing back 2 out of 4 of those awesome players, and you got other guys on this Miami team that really could step up. You're bringing in an awesome player from Florida State and Matt Cleveland, who I think is going to be a beast for this team. You got guys with experience in March Madness who played off the bench last year, like Wooga Poplar and also Bensley Joseph, who I think are going to take steps up this year. I think Miami is going to be, other than Duke, really the best team in the ACC this year, and I wouldn't be upset if they were a little bit higher on this AP list here. At number 14, we do have Arkansas. Now, this is my first, I've had ones where I was like, they could jump up a few spots. This team could probably be a little bit lower. But this one here, Arkansas at 14, is the first one where I'm like, okay, there is no reason they should be outside of the top 10. I mean, with this team they have coming in, they should be a top 10 team. They are, in my opinion, the best team in the SEC preseason. They have so many studs on this team. I mean, you bring in guys like Tremont Mark. You bring in guys like Khalif Battle, Keon Menafield, L. Ellis. The list goes on and on and on. Jeremiah Davenport. They bring in so many guys through the transfer portal, and then you're returning guys who are going to have awesome years like Trevon Brazile and Devontae Davis. You bring in a 5-star recruit in Bay Fall to play center, and you got other guys on the bench too. Like, this team has so much depth. I think this is going to be Eric Musselman's best team that he's had, and he's made so many Elite Eights so far with Arkansas the past few years. He's doing a tremendous job. I think this is the best talent that he has had so far. Maybe this year the Arkansas finally makes it to the Final Four, or at least maybe another Elite Eight, because they definitely have the team to do it. I'm interested to see how he manages all the minutes here with all this talent, how they kind of play together, because it is a lot of weird play styles here coming together. But I think he's going to make it work. I think he's an excellent coach, one of the best coaches in college basketball right now. I think they're tremendously underrated, ridiculously underrated, and the first real problem I've had with this AP poll so far. Texas A&M coming in here at number 15. Sorry, I made a jump on you guys here. But yeah, Texas A&M, they got an awesome backcourt returning, and Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford, 2 veteran guys. Texas A&M, I thought last year they were tremendously underrated. They're finally getting the respect that they deserve, and maybe actually even a little bit too high here. But I was campaigning for them to be higher on the polls all of last year, and then they finally get it. I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit too high. But they deserve it. They've been underappreciated. Now they're kind of getting their appreciation, so they deserve it. Kentucky here at 16, they're a team that's going to be pretty much all freshmen. I mean, they're bringing in a 700-year guy, Perry Ellis, year eligibility guy, and Trey Mitchell, who's playing for his 60th team. Somehow passes the NCAA guidelines and is eligible to play on his 60th team here in Kentucky. Is that because Kentucky brings in a lot of money to the NCAA? You know, but yeah, Kentucky, other than Trey Mitchell, Antonio Reeves returning there, they got a lot of freshmen coming in, a lot of five-star freshmen coming in, and that includes DJ Wagner, of course, Dillingham, Aaron Bradshaw. They got a ton of five-star talent coming in, and we're gonna see how they play together. Is this five-star talent going to turn out? I think it probably will. I definitely think at least DJ Wagner and Dillingham will. This Kentucky team's going to be pretty good. I'm definitely fine with them being 16. I'm just happy they didn't push them all the way to top 10 because I don't think they have a top 10 roster, at least not yet. Like, if they're five-star, all three of their five stars turn out to be absolute stars, they probably have a top 10 team, but we have to see it first, so I like them here at 16. Number 17, the second one, and 17 and 18. San Diego State and Texas should both be top 15 teams, 100%. They should both be above Kentucky. They should both be above Texas A&M. They should both be, honestly, there's a lot of really good teams, so I see kind of why they ended up falling this low. But these are top 15 teams, man. San Diego State, coming off of a national championship appearance, is down to 17. When they're returning a lot of players too, like Lamont Butler, Darian Trammell, Ladie, Parrish, Reese Waters. Reese Waters they brought in from USC. Like, so much talent on the San Diego State team. They're so well coached, so defensive, so lengthy. Like, this San Diego State team should be a top 15 team, 100%. They should be above a lot of these teams, in my opinion. Again, I have to come out with my own rankings here coming out soon, and we're also going to do a preseason bracketology that we're going to fill out here soon. Later this week if you guys want to see it. But San Diego State, they have so much talent on the team, they should be a top 15 team. Same with Texas. I mean, they bring in Max Asmus, a transfer from Oral Roberts, one of the best point guards in the country, one of the best scorers in the country, absolute stud. Pair him up with Tyrese Hunter, and they're bringing back Dylan Dessou as well. I mean, those three right there should be a top 15 team. Not to mention they got Dylan Mitchell at small forward, who, let's not forget, was a top 5 recruit last season. Now he's going to be a sophomore. I think he's going to take a huge jump. They also got guys like Brock Cunningham coming off of the bench. I just really like this team. They also brought in Kane Shedrick, transfer from Virginia. I mean, this Texas team's absolutely stacked. I know they're losing a couple of players here, but man, they've done work in the transfer portal. They look really good once again. I think they should be a lot higher, especially playing in the best conference in college basketball. North Carolina at 19. I think it's a little high for how bad they were last year and how disappointing they were last year. I mean, they were the number one team preseason last season, and they absolutely just crapped the bed all year and ended up not even making the March Madness tournament. So now they're coming in here at 19 in the preseason poll. I think probably a little bit too high, but I see why. They do have a really solid team. Armando Bacot, and they're also returning R.J. Davis, and a lot of North Carolina fans especially, would say that losing Caleb Love to the transfer portal was actually an addition by subtraction. And I said the same thing about Kirk Kriisa to Arizona. Like, I definitely could see these as additions by subtraction. Like, you get rid of kind of the player that you've had for a while, it's not working out. You recognize he could be the problem. I mean, he does chuck up a lot of shots, so I definitely could see that. They bring in a guy like Harrison Ingram, who is much more of like a system type player, could take a huge leap. I love him at the small forward position. He is going to be perfect for this North Carolina team. I like it a lot. They're also brought in a guy in Cormac Ryan from Notre Dame who's going to be beast. They got James Okonkwo, who is a stud from WVU. I would know as a WVU fan. You look at the stats, you don't really see much, but he is an absolute block machine, and he's going to be an amazing backup center for Armando Bacot, in my opinion. And then you look, if some of these guys like Jalen Washington and Seth Trimble, some of these sophomores really take a leap and become a great guy off the bench, this North Carolina team could be dangerous. We'll see how much of addition by subtraction that Caleb Love move really was there when he left through the transfer portal. we'll see. But I think 19 a little bit too high here for preseason. Number 20, we do have Baylor, and Baylor, I don't really like them too much this year. I mean, they lost a lot in the transfer portal. They lost a lot in general. They bring back guys like Jalen Bridges. I don't see it, man. I think there's a lot of other really good teams in the Big 12 that should maybe be ranked before Baylor, like TCU, like Kansas State. I'm not big on Baylor this year, but Scott Drew, he's one of the best coaches in college basketball. He's always going to have a solid team. They're always going to have really good defense. I definitely feel like this Baylor team is going to have to lean more heavily on the defense rather than excellent guard and shot making guards that they've had in the past. I just don't see them having too many of those shot making guards this year. At 21, we do have USC. I'm surprised they're not overrated more with all the hype with Bronny James, Isaiah Collier, Boogie Ellis. They have a squad. I think this is a great spot for them, so anywhere from 20 to 25 range. I just thought, the AP poll being what they are, would overrate them. But yeah, this is a good spot for USC. I think they have a solid team. They also have Kobe Johnson in there as well. I don't know about their bench depth. But yeah, I think they're going to be a pretty solid team this year there in the Pac-12. And other than Arizona, which Arizona is above them, the Pac-12 really doesn't have too many great teams, So yeah, I think I'm fine with USC being here at 21. Number 22, we do have Villanova. Villanova, they didn't have a great season last year. They're expected to bounce back this year. Got Justin Moore coming back, who was a big player of that Final Four team that went to the Final Four, not last year, but the year before. He tore his Achilles, I think, and then he returned actually towards the end of last year, and Villanova played significantly better once he came back, and he's back again this year. They also brought in Hakeem Hart. They're from Maryland, and they're bringing back Eric Dickerson, Dixon as well. They always have really good forwards there, so I don't really worry about the forwards. I think they have a very solid team. So this year, are they a little bit too high? I probably have some other teams ranked before Villanova, at least through the preseason. I want to see it first before I rank them, but that's just me. At 23, we do have St. Mary's. St. Mary's is always going to be a solid team, and they got Aiden Mahaney, who's one of the best players that they've had, ever. So I really like them. They have their guy, and then they have their team that is going to play St. Mary's basketball. They're always going to be a top 25 team, no problem there. 24, they have Alabama. I'm fine with this. Yeah, they lost Brandon Miller to the pros. They lost a couple of other guys as well. Noah Clowney, Jane Bradley to the transfer portal. So yeah, they lost a lot, but they're also bringing back Mark Sears, who is going to be in. They brought in Aaron Estrada, who is a very, very solid transfer. They brought in Grant Nelson, who is a very, very solid transfer. So if those transfers turn out like I expect them to, and they also brought in guys like Mo Wagi, another WVU center, who is going to be he could possibly get some starter minutes sometimes here for this Alabama team, but I expect him to be just a very solid backup. Yeah, I think this Alabama team, I'm fine with them being here at 24. I think it's a solid spot for him. Illinois here at 25, a team with a ton of potential. I mean, a lot of people talk about Terrence Shannon Jr. I think the best player on this team is Coleman Hawkins. Coleman Hawkins is going to be such a beast this season for Illinois. I'm so excited to watch him play. He is going to be such a beast. They also have Dane Danger at center returning, and they're going to have some other couple guys step up. I'm fine with them being at 25. They have a ton of potential. I'm a huge Coleman Hawkins guy. I think he's just an amazing player. Terrence Shannon Jr., if he can stay consistent, this team, it could be towards the top of the Big Ten. Some teams that I had that I think strongly should be top 25 teams that weren't on this list. I have two of them that I strongly think should be in the top 25, and I have some other teams that, just some honorable mentions, teams that I think are close to top 25. I wouldn't be mad if they were ranked, and I'm not really mad that they're not ranked. But the two that I strongly think should be ranked, and I'm really kind of wondering what's going on with this poll, is TCU TCU brought in Jameer Nelson Jr., who's one of the best scorers in college basketball, and they brought him in to replace Mike Miles, who's going to take over that role. And they're returning so many other players like Emmanuel Miller. TCU is just going to be a stud of a team once again, just like last year. I think they should be in the top 25. Also, Indiana. Yes, they did lose Trace Jackson Davis, but they brought in Khalil Ware, who I think is going to really take a jump this year under Coach Mike Woodson, who is an excellent coach, especially with them big men, man. Bringing back Xavier Johnson. Indiana's going to have a awesome team this year. They also got a 5-star recruit coming in again this year. Some other transfers like Indiana, TCU, 100% should be in the top 25, in my opinion. The other teams that I thought, I wouldn't be mad if they were ranked. I'm not mad that they're not. But teams that I think deserve a mention here are Kansas State, Maryland, UCLA, Wisconsin, and New Mexico and Drake. New Mexico and Drake are two of the better mid-major teams, in my opinion, through this preseason. I'm very excited to watch play this season. Keep your eye out on them to potentially get ranked here in the near future as the season gets kicked off, because I think they're two awesome mid-majors. So let me know, which team do you guys think got snubbed? What's your biggest kind of gripe with this here AP poll in the preseason? Let me know down below in the comment section, and let me know, who do you guys think is going to bring home the 2024 March Madness National Championship this year? A ton of college basketball content coming your way, so make sure you guys subscribe, hit that like button if you guys are new, and yeah guys, thank you so much for watching.